Okay, that is the last time I investigate a creepy, abandoned lab without a gun.
Hey, we just got finished with the last of the cases. Do you want your invoice emailed or should I print? Oh my god, what happened to you?
Oh, I got chased by a ravenous science experiment. Normally all the deranged experiments on the orbital platform are under lock and key, so I guess I got careless.
Oh, you look like garbage.
Hey!
No, I mean my cleric senses are going off like crazy. Did anything happen to you in there?
I'm pretty sure it clawed me as I was running away, but nothing in the report said the mutants had any kind of contagious biohazard.
Then it's something worse. Something in here in Zombie World must have infected the wound because you are giving off serious undead vibes.
Oh, no. I don't want to go back to that. Hurry up and cure me or something.
No can do. Who knows what healing magic could do to you in your state? You know how it goes in RPGs.
Right. Oh gosh, I'm freaking out here. What should I do?
I'm not gonna lie, this is outside my area of expertise, but I'm gonna try to find someone around here who might have seen this before. You know, someone who actually knows what the they're doing, because I sure as hell don't. You stay here and try to stay calm. Who knows, maybe it'll die down on its own?
But it's already dead, isn't it? Okay, stay calm, huh? Okay, oh, I don't have to worry, this is clearly some kind of framing device for an episode. And you know what? I think I know just what it's for. That should pass the time until help comes back. I hope. Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. It's time to wrap up Spooky Month episodes with, well, another TCG exclusive archetype. I tell ya, give me an inch and I'll take the entire card printing sheet. And no surprise, I'm super excited to talk about today's subject, Vendreads. Premiering in the August 2017 core set Code of the Duelist, this ritual zombie archetype arrived with a substantial amount of fanfare. Here was a theme that could leverage the already impressive suite of existing zombie support, had a ritual spell that wasn't just efficient but was also compatible with one of the best pieces of ritual support ever printed, and had a ton of potential as a big boss that could decay your opponent's entire setup like it was nothing. But how did a theme with so much promise end up having zero impact on the competitive scene? Well, that's what we're going to try and find out today. Let's collect our samples to see what we're working with, figure out the hunting instincts of this particular kind of zombie, then see if there are any enhancements we can stitch on to this shambling swarm. It's time to pick some brains with Vendread. Ugh, don't like how appetizing that sounds right now. But before we continue, a quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and what better way to travel down the road than on your Duel Runner? We'll be covering iconic 5Ds characters along the way, and our next stop is 20K, where we'll start the Yusei Explained series, covering Stardust, Junk, and whatever other cards we can play to help us rev it up. We've also got our Discord, where everyone seems to be ready to throw hands at Eldritch, and I couldn't possibly say why. He seems like such a wonderful individual. And a Twitter, where you can stay up to date on channel news and my bad takes. And if you really like what I do here, please consider joining my YouTube membership. It's basically like a Twitch sub, emotes included, or backing me on Patreon, where you can vote on a video that I make every month. It also gets you early access to my videos via the patron-only section of my Discord, provided I get the video done ahead of schedule. And whether you're a member or a patron, I get a schedule sent to you on the first week of the month, so you know what to expect for the next 4 weeks. Thank you all so much for watching, and now, back to the video. So, what's the deal with Vendreads? Well, they're a series of dark zombie monsters that can be largely divided into two camps: the ritual bosses and the non-ritual component monsters, who supply an effect to Vendread ritual monsters if used as material while on the field. Lore-wise, it's a little muddy. The Inciting Incident card shows main character Kun transforming into a Vendread slayer after something horrible happened to their significant other. Combine that with the demonic look of their rivals, and this may be a supernatural undead invasion, despite the big Resident Evil, sci-fi zombie vibes a lot of the art gives off. However, the catalyst of what turned Slayer into their anti-hero form is still unknown, just that whatever it was triggered by an intense feeling of loss. Unlike usual, we're going to cover Vendreads in chronological order, because I feel like it's important to grasp how the theme grew and changed over time. So let's start with the hero who's got a bone to pick with this zombie invasion. We're a Vendread Slayer. They're a level 6 ritual monster with 2400 attack and 0 defense, and like all future rituals, can be ritual summoned using any Vendread ritual spell. Once per battle, as a quick effect, you can banish a zombie from your grave to give Slayer a persistent 300 attack boost. And if Slayer was sent to the grave after having been ritual summoned, you can add any ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send a Vendread monster from your deck to the grave. This is the monster the deck was initially working towards, and while it seems a little underwhelming now, we're going to be adding a few more effects down the line to make it a real bruiser. They even have some Shiranui synergy, as Slayer's a banishing outlet for any that gets stuck in your grave, all while making it a more and more menacing attacker. Slayer's a really great way to give your opponent the finger. But in like a cool pose kind of way, not like flipping them off. Why are they doing that? Is Slayer actually a huge nerd? And you can make Slayer with Vendread Origin, a ritual spell that can be used to ritual summon any Vendread ritual monster from your hand or grave, something that previously only Necroz's Cycle could do. You can tribute monsters from your hand or field as normal whose level equal or exceed the ritual monster you want to make, but you can also banish zombies in your grave as well. Talk about value. Also, if any number of your Vendread Slayers would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish Origin from your grave instead. And that last effect made it eligible for pre-preparation of rites, so you'd have access to Slayer all the time. Combined with the ability to banish material out of your grave, thank you for more Shiranui synergy, and the ability to summon the Slayer right out of the grave, and this spell has your entire game plan on lock. Now for the supporting cast. Vendread Revenants is a level 4 monster with 1800 attack and 200 defense, and if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the grave, you can special summon them, but they're banished if they leave the field, embodying the most important technique in zombie disposal, the double tap. And if used as ritual material for the ritual summon of a Vendread monster while on the field, it grants the ritual monster a once per turn quick effect, where they can target a special summoned monster your opponent controls and banish it. Oh, what? It makes your Slayer a Karma Cut on legs with no cost that, yeah, doesn't hit everything, but hits all the most important stuff, and is otherwise just a neat 1800 attack normal summon with recursion, so they're great at clawing their way back onto the field. Vendread Hound Horde is a level 3 monster with 0 attack and 2100 defense, and if they're in the grave, you can discard a Vendread card to special summon them, but they're banished if they leave the field. And if used as ritual fodder for a Vendread ritual summon while on the field, they give that monster a once per turn quick effect of targeting a spell or trap your opponent controls and banishing it. So now we're adding Cosmic Cyclone to the mix. Get both of these onto Slayer and you'll start picking apart boards like nobody's business. Nothing will be safe. Well, unless you have targeting protection, but that's what the growing attack stat is for. As for the monster itself, it makes for a decent defender to keep your life points safe sometimes, and discarding a Vendread ritual monster doesn't really count as cost considering how Origin works. And when you do that, you get a whole bunch of undead good doggies. Don't let the teeth coming out of every orifice scare you, they need petums just like every other doggy. Next is Vendread Reorigin, a normal trap that has you targeting a face-up monster your opponent controls that has a level. On resolution, you tribute it, and if you do, special summon a Vendread token that's a dark zombie monster with 0 attack and defense, with a level equal to the tributed monster's original level. And while the token special summoned by this effect is on the field, you cannot normal or special summon monsters except Vendread monsters. This is a pretty choice kaiju substitute, but was otherwise restrictive considering how otherwise splashable the deck is, especially with the low amount of Vendread monsters available at the time. But it is removal and has gotten much better with age, especially with the release of a Vendread Link monster to help get it off the board if you don't have a ritual spell handy. But why are these zombies so ripped? What kind of workout routine are you doing down there? That's all the Code of the Duelist Vendreads, and you can see where all the excitement was coming from. Great typing, a boss monster that could get outstanding effects, and a very powerful, very efficient ritual spell. Let's see what Circuit Break can bring to the table. Its first card is another supporting cast member, Vendread Strigus. They're a level 2 monster with 500 attack and 2000 defense, and if sent to the grave, you can reveal a Vendread card in your hand to special summon Strigus, but it's banished if it leaves the field. And if used as ritual material for the ritual summon of a Vendread monster while on the field, it grants that monster an effect where, after damage calculation, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can draw a card, then discard a card. So the effect isn't quite as impactful as Revenants or Horde Hound, but it's still a pretty easy summon considering how often we send zombies to the grave. However, this is where we start seeing the limits of the card mechanics in regards to rituals. It's pretty clear that Vendread is a kind of build-your-own-boss archetype, where you're handed a bunch of component monsters, and how you fit them all together determines the traits of the final product. The issue is that, while most ritual spells say you contribute monsters whose level equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster, you're not allowed to use more monsters than are strictly necessary. For instance, Slayer is level 6, Revenants and Hound Horde total 7, but you can use both of them because if you leave either of them out, you can't get to the 6 you need. Revenants and Strigus equal 6, so that fits perfectly, but you can't, at that point, also use Hound Horde to get 3 effects, because those 3 levels are completely superfluous. You'd have to either get rid of Hound Horde or Strigus. You're not even allowed to do something clever like use Strigus, then Hound Horde who equal 5, then add 4 extra levels from Revenants, because all of your tributes are determined at once. This means there's a limit to how many effects you can stack on any given ritual monster, so you have to pick and choose. And honestly, looting a card after attacking just doesn't hold a candle to quick effect removal of the kinds Revenants and Hound Horde can provide. All of this to say, this card is for the birds. We've also got our new ritual monster, Vendread Chimera, a level 5 monster with 2300 attack and 0 defense. If a card or effect is activated that would destroy a card on the field as a quick effect, you can banish a zombie monster from your grave to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. And if tributed or banished for a ritual summon, Chimera debuffs all of your opponent's monster's attack and defense by 500 permanently. So this absolute monstrosity can help keep your board safe from destruction-based removal, but it can also disrupt your opponent in very specific ways. For instance, if your opponent is playing metal foes and they try to pop their own card with their Scales effect, Chimera can step in and stop that from happening. And in a pinch, they can keep your opponent's monster's stats in check. Just make sure you're careful with how you resolve this against Unchained. At that point, Chimera is less of a damper on your opponent's plans and more like a feedback loop. Vendread Reunion is this set's designated ritual effect, but not ritual spell. Instead, it's a normal trap that has you revealing a Vendread ritual monster in your hand, special summoning any number of your banished Vendreads with different names and face down defense position, whose levels exactly equal the revealed ritual monster's level, tribute all those face down defense position monsters, then ritual summon the revealed ritual monster from your hand. Whew, that's a mouthful. In short, you summon a bunch of banished Vendreads to ritual summon at quick effect speed. Since they get summoned to the field before they're tributed, whatever you ritual summon is going to have all the component effects, and I suppose they were summoned face down to prevent any kind of continuous effect from messing with the process. But the fact that the levels have to be exact is what really trips this card up. Since you can't ritual summon from the grave with this effect, you need to have one of your rituals in hand with the right monsters in your banished zone to fit it. And that's not horrible. Our Vendreads are going to be banished a lot, but that minor hitch can cause major problems in practice. Not to mention how much time it's going to take to untangle all these critters in time for the zoo to open. Vendread Knights is a field spell that lets you discard a card to add a Vendread monster from your deck to your hand. And when your Vendread monster destroys a monster by battle, you can banish a Vendread monster in your grave so you can attack again in a row. This has some slight synergy with Strigus, as the draw then discard effect isn't once per turn. So if you wanted to attack an entire field, the Strigus effect can keep dumping cards into the grave for you to banish. But the more important effect is the first one. Remember, sending Vendread ritual monsters to the grave is essentially the same thing as having them in your hand, so you basically go +1. And now you can pull the monsters you need right out of the deck to help with your combos. It's a great way to add consistency to your deck, making for a very good night. With Circuit Breakout, the deck didn't really change much. You had some more cards to pad out your theme, but the ritual effect you got was unwieldy at best. But Chimera made for a nice defensive option, while Knights made it a lot easier to access your plays. It was a bit of a disappointment, but how would things change with Extreme Force? Well, it looked promising with the introduction of Vendread Core, a level 1 monster with 0 attack and 500 defense that could special summon itself from the grave by banishing another zombie from your grave, but it would be banished if it left the field. And when used as ritual material for a Vendread ritual summon while on the field, that ritual monster could not be targeted by your opponent's effects. That's amazing! Now less interaction could get through to your boss while it was tossing your opponent's cards in the banished zone, but the level situation came up again. While being level 1 might seem like a blessing, insofar as it could sneak into the material used more easily, it actually meant that you had to make the ritual with exact materials, because if you were even a single level over, Core would count as an extraneous material and you couldn't use it. Ironically, if it were a higher level, it'd be easier to use, as exemplified by a card that already exists that we'll go into in the tech cards section. So while this card may be core to the Vendread horde, it certainly isn't so for our game plan. We also got a new ritual monster, Vendread Battlelord. It's a level 7 monster with 2700 attack and 0 defense, and they can banish any Vendread card in your grave, then declare a card type, monster, spell, or trap, and for the rest of the turn, your opponent can't activate cards or effects of the same type you chose. And if this ritual summoned card is sent to the grave, you can add any ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send a Vendread monster from your deck to the grave, making this the Senju of 1,000 Hands to Slayer's Sonic Bird. It's also just a Shockmaster, a card that people have been trying to meme off the ban list for years, hashtag do not unlock the shock. With this, you can effectively make your deck immune to hand traps. Just call monster and like that, no Ash, no Bell, no Nibiru. And if your opponent has a lot of back row, you can just name spell or trap, but usually trap, and be safe that way. Sure, it only lasts until the end of your turn, not the end of your opponent's turn, but it's still really good at pushing through your opponent's cards. Besides, you want to get another card banned? Dollars to donuts, if it could do that, it'd be seeing play in Drytrons. No bones about it. Vendread Charge is a quick play spell that has you sending a zombie from your hand or face up on your field to the grave to special summon a Vendread monster from your deck. This card can be pretty sick as it can get the right component Vendread onto the board for an optimal ritual summon. And it's another discard outlet for your zombies, setting up your Mizukis and glow-up blooms and the like. You can also be tricky with it, using it to dodge targeted interaction against one of your zombies if they try to hit it with something like Infinite Impermanence. Sure, it's a -1, but we're zombies! -1s are just future +1s to us. The only downside I can see is getting picked to be part of the cleanup staff after this fiery zombie invasion is done with. I wouldn't want to be in charge of that. Vendread Revolution is a normal trap that has you discarding a card, then targeting a Vendread monster and a ritual spell in your grave. You special summon the first target in defense position, then add the second target to your hand. You can also banish Revolution from your grave, then target 5 of your banished zombies, shuffle them into the deck, then draw a card. So it gets you back vital component monsters and ritual spells to keep your plays going, and is a Zodiac combo when you need it, recycling your used zombies for a draw. And since it doesn't check for archetypes, this can get back all your generic support zombies as well. Now, at first I was frustrated that this clashes with Vendread Reunion, as you need a bunch of banished monsters to use it. Then I remembered that it's so hard to use compared to Revolution that we don't really need to worry about seeing 2 of them on the same list. But then I thought about how it's still lame that these 2 conflict when one could have been printed as an entirely different card that could help the other. Things aren't looking good, folks. We're gonna need some kind of Vendread Revolution in card design to get out of this one. Coming out of Extreme Force, the deck was losing a lot of its initial momentum. The new ritual was interesting but didn't mesh with pre-prep and didn't come with its own ritual spell to fix this. And while we got a lot of cards to help the previous game plan run smoothly, it didn't do anything to ratchet up the power level. And it was gonna need it, because this is the set that Heavy Metal Foes Electromite and Isolde came out in. So the ceiling on decks was getting, well, extremely high. Flames of Destruction was up next, and it came with Vendread Anima, a level 1 monster with 0 attack and defense that you can banish from your grave to target and special summon one of your banished Vendread monsters, except another copy of itself. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters. And if used as ritual material for a Vendread ritual monster while on the field, that monster banishes whatever monster it destroys in battle. This is the last component monster we would get, and while its additional effect isn't anything to write home about, it's nice that it helps you get your other components onto the board, so it's actually not that bad. This might also be Slayer's significant other. Anima looks like it has some kind of pendant on it, and if so, that brings up the connection to the Jungian idea of the Anima, which would imply the existence of a Vendread Animus, which we don't clearly have, but diving into that subject requires knowledge I am not equipped with, so I'm just gonna move on to the next card. Revendread Executor is a level 8 ritual monster with 3000 attack and 0 defense, and its name becomes Revendread Slayer while on the field, which means it can benefit from the protection effect of Origin. And while this ritual summoned card is on the field, your opponent can't target cards you control with card effects except Executor. And if destroyed by an opponent's card while in its owner's monster zone, and after having been ritual summoned, you can add any Vendread card from your deck to your hand, which I guess makes this the Manju of the 10,000 hands for the theme, which I suppose makes this the Manju of the 10,000 hands for the theme. This card is stupendously powerful. Making your entire board immune to targeting is outstanding, especially if made with core so it can protect itself from targeting, which is something you can do now thanks to its 8 levels. This can be made using Revenants, Hound Horde, and core, meaning you not only have a field that shrugs off a lot of interaction, it can also pick apart your opponent's board while they struggle to find an answer, meaning this is the perfect monster to execute your game plan. Vendread Evolution is, finally, an honest-to-goodness ritual spell, and it's almost more powerful than Origin. It ritual summons any Vendread ritual monster, and it can also do so from the hand or grave. You can't banish from the grave for the material, and the levels do have to be exact, but you can use up to 1 Vendread monster from your deck as ritual material. However, the monster is destroyed during the end phase of the next turn. Now, that sounds pretty lame, and I used to agree, but thanks to this deck's outstanding performance in Duel Links, it's actually opened my eyes to Evolution's true purpose. It's not a way to put a big monster on board permanently, it's a combo extender. For instance, you can use Evolution to ritual summon Slayer using another copy in your deck. Then, if you use Origin, you can essentially swap the Slayers, triggering the one that was on the field, to search you another Origin, then bin whichever Vendread you want. So now it's not entirely lame that you can't search your other rituals with pre-prep, because this combo can put whichever one you'd want in your grave. And since the monster you summoned is off the field, you don't have to worry about it exploding later on. It's also an incredible card that can also just throw your component Vendreads into the grave if necessary. Just make sure you're not holding the B button when you resolve this effect, otherwise things are gonna get weird. Vendread Nightmare is a continuous spell that lets you tribute 1 or more Vendread monsters from your hand and or field, then target a face-up monster you control to increase its level by the number of monsters tributed until the end of the turn. Remember, this counts the number of monsters tributed, not the level of those monsters. And when an attacking Vendread ritual monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can have it gain a persistent 1000 attack boost. This can kind of help with the core problem we talked about earlier in the video, but the fact that you have to use tangible resources to do this doesn't make it a very robust transaction, especially with all the other cards that demand we discard to make them work. The 1000 attack boost is pretty flashy, even Chimera becomes a 3300 attack negation body, but that's not really our primary concern, especially since it doesn't help us attack into monsters that are already too big before we manage to dispatch another monster. It's pretty funny that this card came out in the set that introduced some of the most powerful generic Link monsters in the game, because for the person using it, this card is the real nightmare. Vendread Daybreak is a normal trap that you can only activate if your opponent controls more cards than you do. On resolution, you choose a ritual summoned Vendread monster you control and destroy all cards on the field except the chosen monster. However, it can't attack directly anymore while it remains face up on the field. This is a very interesting board wipe, and I don't entirely hate it. Zombies are experts at using the grave to rebuild a board, so losing everything is almost comical. And with your ritual spells, you can use the remaining monster to just get another one out of your grave, and you can swing directly to your heart's content. It's even chainable for crying out loud, so you can activate this during your opponent's end phase for maximum impact. It's unfortunate that you need to have less cards than your opponent to activate this, so if they can keep their on-field cards down to 2, the trap and your ritual at minimum, they can bypass this. But I'd bank on the fact that your opponent isn't going to see this coming. So when you resolve it, they're going to have a very, very bad day. And that's where the Vendread's core set releases stopped. While it exploded out of the gate with potential, it didn't get any more tools to fight its competition, only ones to help defend itself and make the process more consistent. But rising tides didn't necessarily raise all ships, and the ritual zombie deck that once had such promise was quickly trampled underfoot by the power of Pendulum Links and beyond. However, while its competitive viability never soared as high as its contemporaries, it did release its own piece of generic zombie support to help any future deck that would take up its mantle. Releasing in the import reprint set Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge, a Vendread Savior is a Link 2 monster with 1600 attack, requiring 2 zombie monsters as material. Its name becomes Vendread Slayer while on the field for that sweet origin protection, and once per turn, you can target a Vendread card in your grave and add it to your hand. Also, during damage calculation, if Savior battles an opponent's monster as a quick effect, you can send a zombie from your deck to the grave, and that opponent's monster loses 200 attack times the level of the monster you sent to the grave until the end of the turn. On theme, this can get your rituals out of the deck, debuffing an opponent's monster by 1000 to 1600, helping you to run over just about anything. And if you're running it in other zombie themes, then the possibilities are endless. Send Baylordrock to set up a future turn. Send Glow-Up Bloom to summon Baylordrock right onto the field if you've got Zombie World. Send Spectral Sword for some grave synchros on future turns. Send generic, zombie good stuff. As long as Savior can punch through it, it doesn't really matter what you send. With a tight buttocks like that, you can do anything. So that's all the Vendread cards, but what do we do with them? Well, despite some stun effects like Battle Lord, we're very offense-oriented. We have strong monsters, cheap and efficient removal, and a lot of ways to get monsters onto the board. So we're definitely going aggro, summoning out our Ritual Horde until we overwhelm our opponent. But what can we play to help them out? Earlier, I mentioned that Core is effectively power crept, and it's by a little card called Jin, Demolisher of Rituals. It can be used as ritual material by being banished from the grave, as well as the usual way, emulating how Origin works, and a ritual monster that uses it as material can't be targeted by our opponent's card effects. So it provides the same protections as Core, though it can also do that when being used from the grave, and has a high enough level where it can allow for some excess in the material levels. Presider of Rituals also kinda does the same thing to Strigus, as it just straight up draws you a card. And you might even want to consider citing in Curse Enchanter of Rituals. Only negating synchro monster effects is pretty narrow, but with Sword Soul about to drop, along with powerful generic options like Borreload Savage Dragon, it can be very powerful in the right situation. Shinobi Necro slots in very well with this deck. You can trigger the draw then discard effect anytime you ritual summon a Vendread out of your grave, and if you banish them as part of a ritual summon, you get them right back. This also gives you access to an abundance of powerful synchros, as Slayer's level 6 pairs quite nicely with Shinobi's level 2. As for a silly tech pick, I'm thinking Megaliths. A lot of their bigger monsters benefit from having multiple rituals in our grave, and that's exactly where we want to put them. Their own engine can also be quite compact, so if we want to focus on the synergy they have together, rather than splashing in every piece of zombie good stuff we can find, this deck can really rock. And that's all I've got to say about Vendreads.
Oh, thank goodness you haven't turned into an undead abomination yet. I found someone who can help. I'm gonna see if I can find anyone to get you back home.
Oh, thank goodness. Who is it?
Hello. How was your trip to the labs?
Oh, come on. You planned on this, didn't you?
Me? You're the one who walked into a place full of untested science experiments. It was inevitable you were going to get hurt. Now, why would you go and do a thing like that?
Because you told me to!
I only said there might be something interesting. It's not my fault you couldn't contain your curiosity. But as long as we're here, I might as well take a peek at what you found.
Nuh-uh, not gonna happen. If you're gonna pull that kind of attitude, I'm gonna keep all that info to myself. Oh, what's going on with my head?
The dead are mine to command. And with how fast that infection is taking hold, you'll be my vassal soon enough, and all your knowledge and abilities will serve me. Normally, the influence of Zombie World takes a bit longer, but you already acclimated to having your body being possessed by the forces of the hereafter now, aren't you? I'm sure it's quite eager to move back in. Now, what is it that you found? Mutation? Combination? Well, if I didn't know any better, I'd say Eldritch was trying to...
Okay. Headache gone. Gotta get out of here before he pulls that again.
Hello, Nova. Long time no see.
You literally just mind-dominated me.
Doom King did. I've done the favor of releasing you.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means that I'm going to have some fun tormenting my previous captor, so I suggest you leave before I change my mind.
Captor? Eldritch, is that you?
Doom King may have dominion over the dead, but there are many who lay claim to such power down here. But with the power of Ogdo Abyss, even monarchs can be made to bend the knee.
Oh, I had a feeling you were up to some nonsense with Ogdo Abyss. What are you doing with them? And what kind of scheme do you have cooking up this year?
Isn't ensuring your safety a gift enough? Leave. Unless you want to see what happens to Baylordrock when he gets turned inside out.
Blech.
Nova, we're leaving. You just can't help getting into trouble, can you?
Sorry, I just wanted to make up for everything.
And I told you that if you weren't going to just fix what happened, you needed to stay out of it. You're lucky it didn't cause any more issues.
So, did you find Eldritch?
No. Wherever he is, he's not anywhere my magic or the Gizmex technology can detect. I hate to say it, but we might not be able to do anything until Eldritch does. And by then, it may already be too late.
Oh. Hey, I hate to be selfish, but am I gonna be—
You're going to be just fine. You might be a bit more sensitive to fire from now on, but it seems that the zombie world infection is settling right in. Your previous time being possessed by Eldritch might have given you some level of immunity. Enough to grant its traits, but not enough to turn into a mindless corpse. Another stroke of good luck, it would seem. You may find its power useful in the future. Just make sure you go get some rest. I'm sure the integration is going to be extremely painful.
Not looking forward to that. Thank you.
And thank you for looking after my charges while I was gone, I suppose. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go give Doom King a piece of my mind.
Wait, watch out! Eldritch can possess— hope Aaron's gonna be okay.
Hey, I heard about what happened from Elise. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull through. Feels a lot better being back at home.
Good, because someone's been here waiting for you.
I missed you.
Hey, buddy, I missed you too. Come on, let's go see about getting the rest of the desk bots put back together.
I would like that very much.
Awesome. You go get the repair bay set up. I'm gonna take care of a few things real quick. Thank you all so much for sticking with me for another series of Halloween hijinks. Make sure to let me know what you thought about this year's offerings, as well as what your thoughts are on Vendreads. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video around. It really does a lot to help me out. I'd also like to take this time to thank my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, CozyBoat275, Nebula Navigators, Benjamin Meisner, Billy Spence, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba331, Panther J, The Wizard Moose and the Fresh Prince of Conair, Cosmic Crusaders, Chaz Ghost, Colin Todd, George Schaefer, Hakatana, the Legendary Raven, and Panda PLS, as well as all the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. And if you want to catch up on all the storyline stuff going on so far, check out this playlist that has all the important points. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.